This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Manhattan Manhunt. Good afternoon. Welcome to the broadcast. New York City Police hot on the trail today of the young gunman who killed the CEO of America's largest health insurance company in a brazen and targeted attack outside his hotel Wednesday morning. Pictures of the suspect now plastered everywhere. Former NYPD detective Pat Brosnan.
Now that his face is available, I think arrest will be imminent for certain. Absent a rice paddy in Vietnam, there's nowhere for him to hide. With the NYPD after him, there'll be cuffs and leg irons on this guy very, very quickly.
The killer arrived in New York last month on a Greyhound bus from Atlanta before checking into a hostel on the Upper West Side using a fake ID. The monthly jobs report went public today, and it was a good one.
As expected, the job market has bounced back strongly in November.
Business analyst Jill Schlesinger says employers added 227,000 workers to their payrolls. As for salaries,
average annual wages were ahead by 4%. And that's important because that 4% number is larger than the current inflation rate of about 2.5% to 2.7%.
The overall unemployment rate ticked up to 4.2% in November as more of the jobless tested out the job market. Forget the world champion Dodgers. Here comes the Dozers. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy making their Capitol Hill debut yesterday.
Musk welcoming Democrats to join Doge as he and Ramaswamy walk into a meeting with House Republicans to introduce Trump's new Department of Government Efficiency to lawmakers as they attempt to cut $2 trillion in government waste in 2 years.
Reporter Aisha Hosni. House Speaker Mike Johnson says Doge makes a lot of sense.
Before a meeting with Doge leaders Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, Johnson said government is too big. It does too many things, and it does almost nothing well. He said there's an enormous amount of waste, fraud, and abuse in the government, and that Doge will investigate that and lay it bare for the American people to see. I'm Brian Shook.
Preemptive pardons may be on the way in the waning days of the Biden administration. The president's considering action to protect the political foes of the president-elect. May include Liz Cheney, Anthony Fauci, and Adam Schiff. Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman says if Biden really wants to heal the nation, he'd pardon Donald Trump, too. The ACLU is fighting a Texas law that requires age verification to access adult websites. Peter Gentala is director of the National Center on Sexual Exploitation.
A child in the United States right now can't go into a brick and mortar retail store like a Walmart and purchase sexually graphic material, but they can go uninhibited online to some of the largest websites in the world who are making billions and billions of dollars off the most dangerous and violent material that's imaginable.
Brittany D. Lamora used to work in the adult entertainment industry, and now she speaks out against the proliferation of pornography.
Anybody can go on any pornographic website. It'll say, are you 18? Click enter. If so, you just click enter and boom, you're on porn. Porn is easily accessible, and I stand for age verification because we need to protect young children.
The percentage of children under the age of 13 in this country who are exposed to pornography has more than doubled the past 20 years. Overseas, the 860-year-old Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, France, reopens to the public this weekend, 5 years after a devastating fire.
As Notre Dame reopens now, officials are extending visiting hours until 10 each night, expecting 15 million or more in just the next few months, with as many as 40,000 a day touring the refurbished cathedral.
Correspondent Jay Gray says President-elect Trump will be among 50 heads of state present for Saturday's reopening ceremony. On Sunday, 160 bishops from all over the world will preside over a special mass to consecrate the newly built or rebuilt cathedral. A Russian woman accused of stowing away on a Delta flight from New York to Paris last month, making her first court appearance today. Svetlana Alana Dolly blended in with crew members to get on a plane without a boarding pass. She could get a 5-year prison sentence. Mankind's return to the moon may take longer than expected.
Artemis 1 launched the uncrewed Orion capsule 2 years ago to test the heat shield, but the results weren't perfect. And now NASA Administrator Bill Nelson says Artemis 2 won't be able to fly until April of 2026.
And we and our industry and international partners need this time to make sure that the Orion capsule is ready to safely deliver our astronauts to deep space and back to Earth.
That means Americans won't walk on the moon again until the middle of 2027 at the earliest. I'm Rory O'Neill.
A town in New Jersey's rescinded a plan to ban the display of the American flag and U.S. Constitution during official town meetings. Not a fan of that idea is Russell Azzarello, president of the Edison, New Jersey Town Board.
I can't comprehend how the U.S. flag or the Constitution could offend anyone. If you're offended by this flag or the United States Constitution, maybe you're living in the wrong country.
Some board members describe the flag and Constitution as props, while calling for their ban from official town meetings. The town of Edison backtracked, however, after residents forcibly pushed back against that idea. No reports of any major damage or injury from a magnitude 7.0 earthquake that struck near the California-Oregon border yesterday.
You feel it? This is so weird. We're literally moving right now.
The trembler triggered a short-lived tsunami warning. 5 million coastal residents were told to seek higher ground. Let's talk bees. Bee colonies have been mysteriously disappearing in recent years. Auburn University professor Jeff Williams.
The losses seem to be hovering at really high rates, and they've been doing so for several years. So, I mean, that's really putting a strain on the beekeepers that are managing those colonies.
So why should you care? Well, fewer bees means fewer goods and higher prices at the grocery store. In the nation's capital last night.
3, 2, 1.
For the last time, President Biden flipped the switch to help usher in the holiday season with the annual lighting of the national Christmas tree.
Merry Christmas, America. Merry Christmas to all of you. May God bless you all.
The event marked one of the last public appearances by Mr. Biden as he prepares to celebrate his final Christmas in the White House. Still to come on the Noon Report for Friday, Puppy Mill Prevention Act, preventing porch pirates this Christmas, and text message response times.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams, still tracking some localized areas of Lake Stone snow flurries. I'll have the details as we look at the weekend forecast coming up in about 10 minutes.
All right, Kevin, we'll see you then. A lake effect snow warning continues until tomorrow for Chautauqua and Cattaraugus counties in western New York. Folks there just can't get a break. Erie, Crawford, Warren, Venango, Mercer, and Forest counties in Pennsylvania also covered by the snow warning. Another 6 to 12 inches is possible by early Saturday. Western New York State Senator George Borrello is fighting against a natural gas ban on new home constructions in the Empire State.
People are coming to the reality that this is something that is going to hamper their ability to effectively, efficiently, and affordably heat their homes. And we cannot just reject this for some kind of a pie-in-the-sky, progressive ideal.
Starting in 2026, new buildings under 7 stories tall must be fully electric in New York. Larger buildings have until 2029 to phase out gas hookups. Steuben County, New York Sheriff Jim Allard has some advice today for preventing porch pirates from ripping you off this holiday season.
If you're going to have a package delivered that's high value, you can have it designated it has to be signed for. That's a great way to do it. It's kind of like leaving your car unlocked at night. You know things are going to go and disappear. So be smart about how your packages are delivered, when they're delivered, and where they're delivered, and you should be fine.
A recent survey shows nearly half of all homeowners have reported a package stolen from their property. The fallout continues after a judge in Syracuse refused to marry a same-sex couple. That judge, Felicia Pitts Davis, says to do so would have violated her religious convictions. The Onondaga County District Attorney's now asked the judge recuse herself from criminal cases that he handles. House fires are commonplace this time of year. Experts say space heaters account for 20% of all fires in the home during the winter months.
Something else we kind of see is multiple space heaters plugged into an outlet. We suggest that you do one per outlet.
Ashley Rivers is an emergency responder in the Albany area.
If you're using gas-powered heating sources, make sure that there is a vented area so that carbon monoxide gases don't stay trapped inside the house.
Rivers says it's important to make sure your furnace is in good working order and have your chimney cleaned once a year to prevent house fires. A military deserter's turned himself in after 16 years. Near Buffalo, New York, this 38-year-old surrendered to authorities on the pedestrian walkway of the Rainbow Bridge this week in Niagara Falls. He's now in the custody of the U.S. Army. Starting December 15th, retail pet stores in New York will no longer be able to sell dogs, cats, or rabbits. Mary Pat Feeney manages Pet World in Rochester. She says this law punishes pet stores that are doing things the right way.
This law isn't going to affect the puppy mills, we don't believe, because they're pretty much flying under the radar as it is. So they're really eliminating the regulated source, not the unregulated source. We're registered, we're inspected. New York State comes in and inspects us at will whenever they want.
The Puppy Mill Pipeline Prevention Act was put in place to prevent the buying and selling of animals from large-scale breeding operations. Americans send 6 billion text messages every single day. 6 billion. Reporter Bree Tennis says how fast you respond to them says a lot about you.
General etiquette says you should respond to a text message within 20 minutes, but time value is placed on relationship status. Studies show we're quick to respond to our boss or immediate family member, but friends usually have to wait. Statistic and Trends website says the average response time is 90 seconds. Psychologists say that rapid-fire response is from efficient multitaskers, but those who take longer are not monsters. They just need more time to process or maybe find their phone. I'm Bree Tennis.
All right, very interesting. Thank you, Bree. Buffalo Bills offensive tackle Dion Dawkins is being recognized for his heroics off the field.
The Walter Payton Man of the Year Award recognizes NFL players for their on-field excellence and community service. Buffalo Bills offensive tackle Dion Dawkins is the team's nominee for the third year in a row for the award. Dawkins is recognized for not only his work with his foundation, Dion's Dreamers, but also for being one of the best left tackles in the league. Dion's Dreamers is known for providing mentorship and support to young men and women in underserved communities. Dee Haley, Family Life News.
Thank you, Dee. We've got more sports next. It's the 2-minute drill on the Family Life Noon Report. The Detroit Lions kicked off Week 14 of the NFL with a thrilling last-second 34-31 win over the Green Bay Packers on Thursday Night Football. Jake Bates kicked the game-winning 35-yard field goal as time expired to help the Lions clinch their 11th straight victory. 9 college football teams will be crowned conference champs this weekend. They include the SEC Championship, which features second-ranked Texas against 5th-ranked Georgia, and in the Big Ten Championship, top-ranked Oregon takes on 3rd-ranked Penn State. One of the greatest coaches in history may be back on the sideline soon. Bill Belichick has interviewed with the North Carolina Tar Heels for their open coaching spot. The 72-year-old Belichick helped New England win 6 Super Bowls over the past 24 seasons. The New York Knicks extend their win streak to 4 games. They beat Charlotte at the Garden last night. Karl Anthony Towns leading the way with 27 points and 16 rebounds. Jalen Brunson chipped in 24. The Knickerbockers had 6 players in double figures. On the ice, the Buffalo Sabres fall to Winnipeg in overtime, 3-2. Buffalo's now lost 5 in a row. Other action saw the Flyers fall to the Florida Panthers 7-5 in a high-scoring affair, and the Islanders lose to the Seattle Kraken 5-2. And finally, college basketball, Penn State upset 7th-ranked Purdue last night, 81-70, before a packed house at the Bryce Jordan Center in Happy Valley. At the Family Life Sports Desk, I'm Bob Price. And still to come, first the snow, now the cold. Kev's got your weekend forecast. Plus the Capital Connection crew, ready to talk shop from Albany and Harrisburg.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. Well, the obvious choice for the top story of 2024 is, of course, the presidential election. But it's also one of the top worldview stories of 2024. That's not because a Christian worldview should ever be reduced to mere political loyalties. No, a Christian vision of life in the world is certainly so much more than politics. But it is not less. After his days in the White House, Chuck Colson never publicly endorsed a political candidate again. That's a practice to which the Colson Center remains committed. However, Chuck did rightly describe voting as, and I quote, our duty as citizens of the kingdom of God. Citing St. Augustine, he urged Christians, and I quote again, to be the best citizens of the society we live in. And to do that, we must vote, end quote. Now, some Christians disagree, and their hesitation, at least during this last election cycle, is somewhat understandable. In 2024, the Democratic platform was the most pro-death and anti-family in history. But also, in 2024, the Republican Party scrubbed both pro-life and pro-family commitments from its platform. And more recently, unlike his first term, several of President-elect Trump's cabinet picks are on record as being both pro-abortion and for so-called same-sex marriage. Even so, the trend of convictional Christians choosing to sit out elections long predates this past one. In fact, according to recent polling by George Barna, the most common reason given for not voting is just a lack of interest in politics and elections. And half of all respondents report feeling like their one vote won't make a difference, and they've grown weary of the controversial nature of the voting process. This idea of not voting in order to just keep our hands clean is not Christianity. Instead, it's a form of pietism. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who faced far worse political realities than ours, rightly rejected pietism as even being contrary to Christian responsibility. After all, Christianity is an incarnational faith. It must be lived, he wrote, in the tempest of the living, as he put it. In Scripture, James plainly states that if there's a good we can do, we should do it, and to not do the good we can do, well, that's sin. Voting is a way of doing good. It's common these days to describe voting as making a choice between the lesser of two evils. But there's a much better approach, especially given the realities of our current political situation. It's to vote in a way that will lessen evil. In other words, we should fully acknowledge the moral inadequacies of our candidates and the necessary limits of political power while still seeking good through the political process. If God's leading you to support the Colson Center, well, this is a great time to give. Every gift given before December 31st will be doubled thanks to a $350,000 match. You can make your gift today at colsoncenter.org/December. That's colsoncenter.org/December. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
All right, John, thank you very much. Let's head outside next. Kevin Williams.
Here is your family life forecast. The golf for today outside of Lake Effect. We'll have lots of clouds with a few breaks of sunshine, a couple of flurries. But Lake Effect snow this afternoon could yield another inch or two, high temps 20s. For tonight and tomorrow outside of Lake Effect, just plenty of clouds. Otherwise, flurries in areas of lake snow, low temps teens into 20. Lake snow shift north tomorrow, then a general light snow for many later in the day and at night, high temps 30s. Mostly cloudy, breezy Sunday with high temperatures possibly breaking 40.
All right, nice little warm-up coming next week. Thank you, Kevin. It's Friday, folks. Congratulations, you made it the 6th of December. And this is the Noon Report on Family Life. And welcome back to another edition of Capital Connection. Fridays during the Noon Report, we give you direct connection to what's happening in Albany and Harrisburg with the experts on the issues at the state capitals. They are Michael Geer at the Pennsylvania Family Institute and Jason McGuire with New York Families. Well, guys, welcome back to the program. Michael, I want to begin with you today and discuss what will be a major fight in 2025 when it comes to marijuana legalization. There was another attempt in the PA House this week to permit pot. If you would talk about how big of a battle this will be in 2025.
Well, it's going to be big in 2025. It's at the top of the agenda for Governor Shapiro and some of the Democrat legislators. But I think, what we saw in this last election back in November with the defeats for legalization of marijuana that happened in Florida and South Dakota, that it is somewhat of a different environment. There's starting to be pushback against marijuana that has not been the case for the last couple of decades as the legalization has spread across the country. But with those defeats there and with the additional knowledge that's coming out about the harms of this high-potency marijuana in commercial settings, gives us, I think, solid ground to fight against this and to stop it here in Pennsylvania.
All right, we'll see where that battle goes. Jason, I wanted to ask you, a city court judge in Syracuse, New York, got herself into some hot water recently. Her name is Felicia Pitts Davis. She would not sanction a same-sex marriage and saying that it went against her religious beliefs. Is she going to be able to beat the rap here, or do you think the state of New York is going to make an example out of this judge?
Well, it seems like some would like to make an example out of her. You've already seen a statement from the governor. You've seen a statement from local people there that are on the liberal side of the spectrum that are calling for her resignation. But the reality is no one was discriminated against. The same-sex couple that sought to be married, this judge just handed them to another judge who did not have the same convictions as her. The couple was married. What's being disrespected here is the judge's right to religious liberty. And remember, this is not a Republican judge. This is a liberal African-American judge in Syracuse. So this is an issue that crosses party lines. It really is just about the principles of religious freedom in America.
Yeah, we'll see where that one goes. Also in 2025, Michael, I know there's going to be a big push for educational choice, those lifeline scholarships, which you guys have been fighting so hard for. Do you think there will be much of an appetite with the governor and with a divided government in Harrisburg for this sort of legislation for children in failing schools?
Well, I know the push is going to continue. There's already sponsorship memos out from newly elected or re-elected legislators looking for expansion to school choice. It's something the governor has said he supports, although he kind of went against his own position in vetoing legislation that included expansion of school choice in the last session. But we're hopeful that it will press forward. The legislature hasn't changed in terms of its makeup, Democrat House, Republican Senate. So it still is a challenge. Teachers Union is going to oppose it, but the appetite for school choice continues to increase in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Jason, talking about education, President-elect Trump wants to blow up the federal Department of Education, return education policy to the states. Might that backfire in a state like New York?
Well, it can in the sense that whenever the pendulum swings one direction in D.C., there tends to be a swing the other direction at the state level. And so if you have a more conservative majority that is moving in a more conservative direction at the federal level, then you may see some of that pendulum swing towards more liberal side of things, towards issues that would hurt many people that share my faith and share my values here in the Empire State. So I think you're going to see a reaction to what's happening in Washington, D.C. in New York State.
One more education issue, Jason, then we'll move on. We're hearing word that Governor Hochul in her State of the State next month will endorse a statewide ban on cell phones. Does New York Families take a position on that?
That's something that the governor started calling for last year, and that trend and that conversation has continued. I think that we have to look at this as a broader issue. It's not just cell phones in schools, but frankly, it is everything encompassing how cell phones are just coming into our kids' lives, and I think are quite literally affecting even how their brains are wired as they're reading more and more of the social media and less of Shakespeare and other things they should be doing in school.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear what the governor has to say about that in her State of the State speech. Moving on, Michael, it was so cool to see your organization, the Pennsylvania Family Institute, at the U.S. Supreme Court this week, hearing this landmark case having to do with a Tennessee law that bans sex change procedures on children. It seemed by hearing what the justice had to say that they may rule favorably for the state of Tennessee and others who have restrictions on this sort of operation. Your thoughts overall on how this case went and why people need to be paying attention to this?
Well, it was clear the divide that exists within the Supreme Court with the U.S. Supreme Court, the liberal justices Sotomayor and Jackson both setting out an ideological position on this issue, whereas those like Alito and Thomas were asking us very pointed questions of those who think that the Tennessee law should be struck down. We're excited about this opportunity to address the issue and to allow the protection of these young people who are being targeted by the medical industry for this transgender surgery and drugs, et cetera. So we're hopeful the Supreme Court will rule the right way. We're glad our Dan Bartkowiak was there as part of a rally outside talking about why this issue is important here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Jason, I want to ask you a follow-up. I thought it was unbelievable. She's had some doozies, but Justice Sotomayor may have taken the cake by saying that the side effects of these irreversible operations is akin to taking aspirin, is how she kind of defined it. But if the court does uphold these laws, how would this affect things in New York?
Well, similar to an earlier response I had, you will see a reaction. So if the court does uphold the rights of Tennessee to stop doctors from castrating children, then you will see a reaction to that in New York. And I expect there will be an effort to protect doctors who choose to castrate children. I assume we'll do similar to what we did to abortion doctors in other states. We will offer safe haven here in New York for those who want to come here and be castrated. You will see a severe reaction here in New York, something that New York voters should wake up to and realize is going on.
Yeah. Michael, their votes on leadership happened. We had been off last week for Thanksgiving break, but Brian Cutler, no longer the House Republican leader in Harrisburg. There's a new guy in town. His name is Jesse Topper. If you would tell us a little bit about who Representative Topper is, and now that he's on top of the Republican Party in Harrisburg, what are your thoughts about his leadership role?
We think Jesse Topper is going to be a great leader in the House of Representatives for the Republicans. Brian Cutler was somebody that we knew very well and worked very closely with, but so much the same with Jesse Topper. We've known him since his initial election to the House of Representatives and have worked closely with him on a variety of issues that I know your listeners would be concerned about or care about. Very solidly pro-family, pro-life, and we're excited about his leadership.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about this guy. He's a Bronx Democrat in Congress, and Richie Torres is his name. There's a lot of talk that he may take on Governor Hochul in the 2026 primary election. Recent polls, Jason, show that the governor is underwater with the voters. How serious of a threat does Torres represent to the governor?
I think it is a serious threat. You already see that he has been attacking her from his position. You're seeing words coming now from Republicans that are looking to challenge the governor. She's going to be in trouble for the next couple of years here, looking towards that 2026 election. That's why she's fundraising so hard. She's sitting currently on $13.5 million as continuing to fundraise, late into December here. She knows she's got a challenge, and her positions are beginning to moderate as she is trying to win back some votes in the next couple of years.
Yeah, quick follow-up. I know the Democrats did pick up seats in the House in New York that they had lost in 2022, but you do a closer examination of the numbers, Jason. I know you're a numbers cruncher kind of guy. Democratic Party registration's down 4% the past 4 years in New York. How worried should Democrats be about this?
Well, they still have a vast enrollment advantage over Republicans, but what they have to watch is there are now more unaffiliated voters than even Republicans in New York State. So that is the large pool of people that are up for grabs. In the last election, they started moving towards the Republicans. If that trend continues, 2026 could be a very good year for the GOP.
All right, that'll have to be the last word this week, but if you have questions about any of the topics discussed today on Capital Connection, or you just want to know, what is New York Families anyway? Jason, you have a wonderful website. Where can folks learn more?
NewYorkFamilies.org.
And the Pennsylvania Family Institute. What's that? Michael Geer, where can folks learn more?
PAFamily.org.
All right. right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Capital Connection, the name of the program, comes your way Fridays during the Noon Report or online anytime at familylife.org.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. The disturbance that has brought the recent lake snows is now up in the Canadian Maritimes, but a brisk and biting northwesterly flow will keep lake effect alive today. And as that flow turns westerly and then southwesterly, push it back north toward Buffalo and Watertown once again before it finally fades with moderating temperatures later in the weekend. The call for today, outside of lake effect, we'll have lots of clouds with a few breaks of sunshine, a couple of flurries. But lake effect snow this afternoon could yield another inch or two in some areas, again, mainly to the east and southeast of Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, high temps 20s. For tonight and tomorrow, outside of lake effect, just plenty of clouds. So otherwise, flurries in areas of lake snow with locally heavy accumulations occurring across some portions of upper central New York and the western Twin Tiers, low temps teens into 20. Lake snow shift north tomorrow, then a general light snow for many later in the day and at night. High temps 30s, mostly cloudy, breezy Sunday with high temperatures possibly breaking 40.
All right, Kevin, great work this week at the Weather Center. Very busy meteorologist this week with all that weather to contend with. And finally, Noon, it may be cold outside, but today's a day you're sure to warm up to.
Popping popcorn, heating leftovers, melting chocolate. Just some of the important functions of the item we celebrate today as it's National Microwave Oven Day. In 1945, Percy Spencer, a self-taught American engineer, realized a candy bar in his pocket was melting while working with radar. This gave him the idea to develop a means to prepare food with microwaves safely. The first Radarange microwave was commercially introduced in 1947 and stood nearly 6 feet tall, costing $5,000. The first countertop microwave was released in 1967. By 1986, a quarter of American households owned a microwave, and by 1997, that figure had climbed to 90%. There's no doubt that microwave ovens have changed our lives, so today celebrate this valuable kitchen appliance because this day will be over before you know it. Brian Query, Family Life News.
All right, Brian, thank you very much. And just like that, we are out of time. That's our world, the world we live in. Friday, December 6th. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm Bob Price, Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.